with that, we've got a segue. Hopefully my volume isn't too loud, David. I know I got some feedback on that. Are we doing okay?
Good, it's good. The energy is it's perfect. Couldn't be
All
better.
right. I got a lot of my energy from modeling marks, and that's something just for you guys to think about. You always want to model people. Who out there do you want to model? And I'm going to introduce somebody who might be somebody else you might want to think about modeling as we move forward. Patricia is someone who I met recently, and this we're always teasing out how can you really build yourself, your career. Networking goes a long way. I'm part of a number of different organizations, and fortunately, my path crossed Patricia's path, and we had an instant connection around what she's up to, what I'm up to, and how we can move this ball forward. And to what Dawood said, how can we lift each other up? And she's someone who lifts people, and I thought would be an incredible person to bring into this environment, this format. Patricia, welcome, and we're looking forward to hearing some of your story and what you might impart upon us in the next few minutes.
Thank you for that beautiful, warm welcome. It's kind of weird to see myself pop up on screen like I'm talking to me. I feel like I'm standing in front of a mirror or something. It's odd. Anyways, hi everyone. And I love this moment. I love this opportunity because I feel like I'm having a step back into time to the younger version of me. I will start off with just speaking to me being an intern. I started off as an intern in this program within the US called Inroads. It's a program that is geared around taking Black students as well as Latino, Asian students and bringing them into the corporate arena. And with everything about that space, they train us, or for me as an alum, they trained me on how to deal with business etiquette, how to manage conflict, how to manage up and raise my voice in certain spaces and meetings. It was a holistic training on stepping into the corporate arena, especially in being a student totally foreign to me, right? Like you learn all the books, you learn all the information, but no one's giving you the actual um, the details of how to operate within that space. So that program was essential for me. And I remember being an intern actually in college. I was given the opportunity in high school when I was a junior in high school. Inroads approached me and I was given an application. I'm a high achiever, so due to my grades and where I was, that's where that started, but I wanted a summer. So instead of taking the inroads course, because it meant that I would be there all summer in my internship, I decided to go ahead and play all summer instead. But when I was in college, I wanted to go back to inroads. And I remember squirming my way back over to them like, okay, you guys, so I know I totally messed up. You gave me an opportunity and I squandered it and I own it. Like, my bad. I totally missed it. I was being a teenager. I was totally about just, enjoying my summer. But now I really see the opportunity that you were offering me. And I want to take it up. And I want to prove in this space that I'm going to make sure that you understand that you made the right decision in saying yes to me now. And I remember in that conversation that the director that I spoke to at the time was like, I have a feeling you really mean that. And I said, actually, my motivation is to prove to you that this is the right decision. And I remember stepping into my internship like, oh my gosh, how can I bring the utmost value into this space? How do I step into this space and not just look at what I'm representing when it comes to inroads and the reputation that I'm bringing into that space for them, but how do I make sure that my value is fully spread in this space to those that I am serving? And how do I make sure that they see that above and beyond? For me, it wasn't about stepping into the internship and looking to do a job. It was about stepping into the internship and looking at how I can learn ways to move in that space and being a source of solution in every little area that I stepped into. I remember my interview and I interviewed with AT&T. And I remember the time when I was sitting there and I'm dealing with two interviews. One was with the VP and the other was with the director, which I thought was kind of like, a really big deal for an internship, right? My heart was racing. I'm sitting there like, okay, all right, well, director, VP, we'll do this. And I sat there in front of the VP, and all I thought about was stick to your mission. Your mission is to be a solution, no matter what the scenario is, to be a solution and to be the best representative of inroads possible. So when I sat in that seat, it wasn't about me being interviewed for a role as much as it was about me looking to be a source of value and solution for them, for this company, for those that I came to serve. And so I did so much research on this group that when I sat in that space and they were talking to me about, all right, here's what it is that we're doing, it was a marketing group. And these are the things that we're going to do. And it was on international marketing. And this is the way we are. This is where we're going. My pause to them was, what are the ways that you are looking for this intern to best serve you? What does that look like? So I remember actually going back and forth with the interviewer as to like, how do I best serve you? How do I best serve you? How do I best serve you? It's not until now that I got the language of what does that look like, which I offer to you because it's a good line. And that's when I learned recently in the circle in which I'm with David on in Unblinded. But when it comes to really stepping into that space, it was really just, how do I best serve you? What does that look like? And it was such a unique conversation and dialogue that actually, after I ended up getting the internship, it was one of the key things that was highlighted to me with every single leader. It was something that they all talked about as to no one has ever asked that question. Like, every single time, no one has ever asked that question. Every room I stepped into, they're like, oh, you're that intern that no one has ever asked that question. So that was a very unique moment for me. But it highlighted to me how my motivation was not wrong. And my motivation was actually directly on point with what it is that I wanted to do. It became a key driver in my conscious leadership. When I was stepping into my leadership, I knew that in every step that I wanted to take, that I wanted to fully be a source of solution. Now, let me speak to you about what being a source of solution looks like. It's not about problem solving. So it's not about stepping into that space and going, how can I solve your problems? It's being able to speak to a crack in the wall where everyone is looking at that crack in the wall and saying, how do we fill in the crack? Or how did that crack get there? To stating, do we need the wall? Is the wall still necessary? Has it served its purpose? If the wall is still necessary, is filling the crack really going to do it? Because we need it to last a century. So it may mean that we need to totally break down that wall and rebuild it so that it lasts a century. That's solutioning. That's not problem solving. So I say all of that to you to say that it's stepping into the space from a different perspective, looking at what it is that you are there to do, how you are there to serve, how you are there to add value. I don't want to really jump into everything that Mark said because he said it all, right? I just want to add some distinctions as to other elements that you can bring into that space. I know for me, when I am dealing with interviews, I am currently an executive at Disney now. Some of the things in which we do in actually interviewing is really looking at scenario-based interviews, where we're looking at, here's a problem, how would you solve it? How do you step into that safe and actually cause some solutions into that space? How do you actually begin to address this? This is how we know whether or not you are truly suitable for that position, whether you're being analytical, or if you are more of a team player, if you're being collaborative. Are you looking for agreements when it comes to how it is that you're looking to operate in that space? Do you know how to communicate clearly when it comes to your partners and your engagements? All of those little pieces are scenario-based problem solving or solutioning. And you can either add to the friction or you can remove the friction when it comes to that space, but it's all in how you are approaching that solutioning. So I bring that up to you as just another opportunity of something you can refine within yourself of how you want to step into a space, especially if you're going to ask, how do I better serve you? How does this internship better serve you, your organization, your department, your leaders? And when it comes to this role, what is ultimately the thing that this role can do that would cause anyone in this position to say, we need to do more with this internship than what we're doing with it now? Just causing change, causing a little push, a little edge, but actually standing in your role as an intern where you are causing leadership in just that moment. A moment of an interview, you are causing leadership that will cause the person who is actually speaking to you to pause and now remember you. It's a very distinct and memorable moment, just like I became known as the intern who asked that one unique question. It lasted my entire internship, but it's something that helped propel me in my career because once I graduated from college, they came after me to come and work for them. And I was still known my first year as that intern who asked that one unique question. So be playfully curious, always look to add value in the scenario, and be sure that you are being a part of solutioning and not problem solving. That's all I have.
I love it, Patricia. That was beautiful. We've got a new hashtag, crack in the wall. And I think, everyone out there, if you have questions, we're going to do a little back and forth with Patricia. I've got a couple of questions, maybe just to further flush some of this out. But that was beautiful, Patricia. Thank you so much for the insight, the story. I guess one thing that's top of mind for me is if it is scenario based and we're inside that kind of conversation, that's something that's coming people's way one way or another. What are some of the things that stand out for you as far as folks who handle that well? What is an approach inside of, I get a scenario-based question, how do I connect that to? And what's pretty cool through Mark and through you, we've talked about features, advantages, benefits, which is, hey, this is something I did, this is something that's great about it, this is how it might impact you. And I think when you say, how can I serve you? We're talking about that impact. We're talking about that benefit to them. I think that equates to scenario into how is that going to impact the organization based on what we've actually also teased out, heroic unique identity, your core values. So anything you could give us around that, I think would be useful to just know how do we best employ it. Does that make sense?
Yes, for sure. So it's really good to actually be sure to do your research on the role and do your research on the department that the role resides in. Because for me to tell you that, okay, I'm going to give you a scenario, and if you answer this way, then that is, the perfect answer, is not the right approach. It's actually based on what that org or what that department needs. So I'll give you examples of what that means or what that looks like. So for an organization that deals with customer service, and one of the key things that they do is they're dealing with phone calls, and those phone calls are normally all complaint driven. It's all about their clients, highlighting all the issues that they have in that space. A scenario in the interview would be you receive a phone call in which one of the clients in this space is really berating you for not getting it right. You are the one who received the phone call. You were not in the scenario, but you represent the company. And in this phone call, this individual is actually stating to you, but I don't understand why you guys can't get this right. I don't understand why it is that you're not really being helpful to me. You aren't really the right person I need to speak to. What is your response? So now it becomes, are you paying attention to the fact that you are in a customer service org who is driven on service? And at the end of the day, the main thing that they go by, which is very similar to the company that I work for, is that the guest is the key source of service. Everything is driven about ensuring that the guest has a great experience. So in this phone call, it's, I'm sorry that you are having this experience. I really would like to understand what exactly happened. Because if I can really clearly understand what broke down and what went wrong, then I probably can really help solve this better. Well, what do you mean? I don't understand. I've explained everything to you. I apologize. What I really need to understand is, what is it that went wrong? Well, I explained to you. What happened is I brought my stroller and the wheel came off, and it's a stroller that you guys gave me, and I don't understand why I had to do this. I understand. Where are you now? Well, I'm standing here in this park and so is not helping me. I understand. Would you please pass me to the representative at the desk? Real simple, right? Now you're going, now me observing that phone call, I'm going, this person who's answering this call, number one, they're acknowledging the person who's on the call to say, I understand that you have an issue. I understand that you're frustrated. I'm removing my emotions from this, even though you're attacking me in this phone call. Now that I hear what your problem is, I understand that me trying to speak to you about solutioning this is not going to be a form of solutioning. I need to collaborate with someone else who's there with you physically. So connect me to my other peer who's there in that circle. In talking to that person, now I can say, listen, it's the stroller, it's totally fine. And that person can say, but we didn't do that. She actually broke the wheel. Doesn't matter. Give her a new stroller, put the other stroller in the back. And when you're done, put the number in the system and email that over to me. Now pass me back over to her. Pass back over to her. I'm so sorry that happened to you. We're getting you a new stroller. We're going to make sure that everything is okay. And actually, by the time you step outside of that service, when you walk over to the so-and-so ice cream shop, we're giving you two ice creams on us, just for the frustration of the process. Apologize that that even happened. Okay, thank you. Click. Now, at that point, you're understanding what their level of service is. You see how they collaborate. You see how they're able to connect with the client. You're seeing how they're willing to close out the scenario. You also see how they are at cause in their leadership. They stood up to say, this is what I'm going to do on solving this scenario. And actually, I'm going to add even more value to you in this space, because if you have a stroller, that means you have kids with you, which means you guys have been standing in this heat for a while. And so I'm going to add some ice cream or dessert to that space to get everybody happy again. And so that in and of itself means that this person thought outside of this circle and outside of that space, multi-dimensional. That right there, I'm going, I want that individual on my customer service team. Yes. So hopefully that was helpful.
I like that. I mean, I would maybe highlight some of those dynamics that you were talking about. One is good listening. Two is not being reactive, but actually getting more understanding of what's going on inside the conversation. And then it was looking towards, what are some potential solutions here? How can I work with this person, work with my team in a collaborative way to come to that end game? I'll open it up, Dawid or Victoria, if you guys have other. Dawid, what say you inside of this? Anything that's top of mind that you want to point to?
Yeah, look, this is really important, and as with everything, context is king. And so that was a phenomenal explanation of, just showing up and saying, how can I serve you better? That's just so powerful. We hear it and we love it. We're like, yeah, I want to hire this person. And I just think that, let me just give you an extra little piece of context that would maybe help you take that and build it into your conversation. So in your interview. So here's the thing. At the moment, and it's been the way for a while now, if you were trying to get an interview in the City of London with any of the firms that you're talking to, there is one thing that they all care about, and that is ESG. ESG stands for environment, social, and governance. You can go check it out. You can Google it. But ESG, if you can get ESG into the conversation, the whole dynamic changes. The interviewer realizes that this is not just someone who's showing up. This is someone who understands what is top of mind for us as an industry. The industry is trying to get its ESG credentials in order. Every firm is talking about ESG. In fact, if you have your interview and you don't bring up ESG, something has gone wrong. You need to bring it up. Okay, so E is for environment, and G is for governance, which is the way we run ourselves, the infrastructures we have in place, the way we make our decisions. But the S is now really important, and it hasn't been important in the past, but now it is. S is for social. S is the way we treat each other. S is our culture. S is our values. S is how can I serve you? That's the essence of S. If you can start having a conversation around that piece where you can say to the interviewer, these are my values. What are your values? We've had this conversation, by the way, before in one of these sessions. I think it was maybe the one before last. We talked about values and knowing your own. Don't show up to an interview unless you know your personal values. Like the ones I like to talk about are, for me, humility, excellence, respect. And I don't always get it right, but those are the, if you were to say, what are your values, Dowd? That's the way I'm going to go. And I took those from the All Blacks, New Zealand rugby team, greatest sporting team on the planet. Humility, excellence, and respect. So I'll always have a conversation about those around values. And if you can take some of what Patricia has just been talking about and you can craft it into, these things are important. I only want to work in a firm where that's the defining question, because I want to work in a firm that has an amazing culture, because I do believe that the S in ESG is the most important thing, or is something that is of as much importance as E for the environment or G for governance. Now you're having the kind of conversation that your interviewer can really start to get their arms around. By the way, you need to know your stuff in the environment space, and you need to understand your stuff in the governance space as well. But if you can start stitching that all together in a conversation, suddenly your half an hour's gone and they're like, whoa, this is a person that we really want to hire. I mean, this is like, they get it. They understand the context. So thank you, Patricia. That was fabulous. And I think it's really set us up nicely for, you know, some of the concepts that we've been talking about over the last few sessions. That's amazing. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I love it. And if anybody has any last second questions for Patricia before we wrap up and move forward. Patricia, one thing I would ask, I know you've produced some extraordinary results in your life and dynamic there in terms of what we just discussed. If somebody wanted to practice this stuff, if somebody wanted to get really good so that when they jump into the interview, they're nailing that kind of question or that kind of scenario, what's something you might suggest for them to build that dynamic, that skill set?
So I would look at what are some of the key problem areas within the like the subject that you manage or that you're interested in, or the industry that you're interested in, and really start to dissect how some people are approaching solving it. Like, look at some of the key things that people are looking at. So like when it comes to I don't know, let's say green engineering, right? Where everyone is kind of like, okay, how do we do this? And how do we do this so that it serves the environment, that we truly have the proper government backing, and socially we are meeting the perspectives of our neighbors and making things healthy and efficient, right? Like when you look at everything pertaining to that space, what are some people doing? Like, who are the leaders in that space and what does it look like? So if you are stepping into an arena where you are interviewing with one of those leaders and you're stepping into the space of one of those leaders, then you're looking at what are all the ways in which I already know I can better serve that space. So I'll put it in a different example because this one kind of drives home as to my own personal experience. I remember when I was hired into, after when AT&T had hired me, after we did the internship and I came into the company, and they had a specific role for me and what they wanted me to do. And I walked into that space really just one day. There was a staff meeting and I asked the question of like, what's the biggest pain point of this team? Like, what's the biggest problem that we're all dealing with? And everybody kind of laughed, you know, like, tons of them. We've got all kinds of issues, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but collectively, what would you guys say? Like, you know, that we all have like the same problem or same issue. And it was trade compliance. Like, we don't really, we know what we know now, but we don't understand like what's the best of the best. Like we don't know what the best practice is. Fair enough. 2 weeks later, it took me 2 weeks to really just draw up a plan, and I went over to my director at the time and said, I'd love to do a benchmark. I'd love to go ahead and go to the best of the best in regards to the best competitors, three of our top competitors, three of our top of the top customers that we have, and I want to ask them how it is that they do their trade programs. Like, what's the best processes that they have in place, and what does that look like? And I remember the director at the time was like, our competitors? You think our competitors are going to give you that information? And I just told him, yeah, why not? They'll give it to me because at the end of the day, I'm going to give them all the information. No names will be given. It'll just be company A, B, and C. And everybody will get the data. Everyone who participates will get the data. So it'll be totally fine. Best move of my career at the time, because I learned everything that I wanted to know about what was the best practices in our competitors and in our customers. I was able to speak about several levels and characteristics about trade compliance. It boosted my career because it was a quick learning curve. It took me 8 months to do that benchmark, but I traveled around to each one of these companies, learned all the information I needed to learn, and then I was able to share the data with everybody. It also caused me to be known by the competitors, and it also caused me to be known by our highest customers. So in the end, I was very well known within the industry. So what I'm saying is there are multiple ways for you to go about really creating a space for yourself and carving out a space for yourself. You can be as creative as you want to be. There is no box, right? You hear the statement of, step out of the box, like do this out of the box. There is no box. There is no box. You can be as creative as you want. And so you can really just step into that space and do what you'd like to do just by going ahead and pulling from the top, companies within the industry that you are looking to get into, seeing what it is that these guys are looking to solve by looking on the internet, Googling it, and seeing what these guys are looking to solve, taking that information and going, how do I fit in here? How can I be a part of solving any one of these problems? And what it is that I do today. How creative can I get? Just look at that. And then when you get into the interview, knowing that information, not that you're going to bring it out the gate, just knowing that information, you ask them the question like, what's the top issue that you guys are dealing with today? And how do you see this internship playing a small role in solving that?
I think that was the mic drop question, and people should be scribbling that down, because that is what we're pointing to, is what is the pain point or challenge that this organization is facing, that this role is facing, and what are you looking for inside of that, and how can I fill it in particular? And that's what everybody wants to also know is, here's who I am, here's what I've accomplished, here's how I can actually fill what it is you just said you're looking for. Dawood, I saw you come off. How are you feeling right now?
No, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great. I think it's Jim Collins who in Good to Great, and he talks about, I think it's Jim Collins, and he talks about 10x employees, which is what everybody wants to hire, right? And the question is, how do you, early days in your interview, how do you give the hint to the person interviewing you that maybe, just maybe, you're a 10x employee, you're a 10x intern, right? What is 10x? 10x, because everybody gives you X. Maybe someone gives you 2x, which is 2 times normal, 3 times. What you want is 10x, which is special, which is what Patricia did. What Patricia did was 10x, right? She went out and she came back and answered the pain point question, and she got to know everybody. And it's all there. You can see it, right? She just tells a story and you're like, that's a 10x right there, 10x intern. That's kind of what you're trying to land. That's how you get hired by the best firms. They're like, yeah, this person's special. So this is what hopefully is, you're learning some of the tips and tricks to land some of that stuff. Thank you. That was awesome.
All right, Patricia, I know you're also going to be leaving us momentarily. I just want to say thank you from all of us. This was incredible value add, certainly for all of us here in the platform itself. So thank you.
Thank you. You've got 2 minutes. Is there any key question that's being highlighted in the Q&A that I can answer in the 2 minutes?
I saw one that was maybe from earlier, but it's how do you find that happy balance that shows confidence in interviews without being smug? It can be so easy to go over the edge.
Be authentic. It really just comes down to that. Just be authentic. Don't act. Don't try to be someone else. Remember who you are. Remember the reason why you're in that space. Remember, if you actually walk into that space with the intention to serve, you cannot be arrogant. It won't happen. The two can't reside together in the same space.
There you go.
So
Another mic drop. All right. I hope everybody's feverishly taking notes. And this was awesome, Patricia. Thank you.
thank you guys for this opportunity. It was really a beautiful thing to be here. I love, love, love this space. I love what you, Dawood, what you and David and Dawood are doing. It's beautiful. So thank you so much for your service, for your heart and your openness. I am here to serve as well. So anytime you guys need me, I am here. And for you interns out there, I can't wait to hear about all the beautiful things that you are doing in this world. Thank you guys for who you are.